everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. We're going to Wine and Zoom with Kerage. I've got my four buddies here. My name's Dustin Kersey. I'm a coach in the Cayman Islands and also work for a fuel company. I've been down here for 18 years now, 19 years. Yeah, long time. Yeah, we're under quarantine. We've got two different versions of a curfew going on, and everyone's trying to prevent the spread of coronavirus in a very small island with very limited health facilities. We have good health facilities, just not a lot of them. Tonight, I'm drinking a Gimli Manhattan. It's made with Crown Royal, which is brewed and distilled, I should say, in Gimli, Manitoba, with lots of cherries, because that's how I like my Manhattan. Tonight, I'm joined with Paul Marconi. Paul, what's going on?
How you doing? Paul Marconi, good to see you all. It's been, like Duncan said, probably 20 years since we last saw one another or chatted face-to-face. Live in Toronto, Ontario. This evening, I am drinking hometown Mill Street organic beer. I am a civil structural engineer living in Toronto, running a medium-sized general contracting business, 54 employees, wife, 2 kids, daughter who's about to turn 7, son who's 9, and we are in lockdown as well. Not quarantine, but lockdown. I have been deemed an essential service, probably more so by the economy than by health and safety standards for the general public. And we're all just doing our part to get through this and keep everybody safe and flatten the curve.
All right. How about you, Duncan?
Hey, how's it going? I am Duncan Forster, and I live in Los Angeles. I am drinking English breakfast with honey and a slice of lemon from the tree in the backyard. Our last lemon was picked today, went into that tea. You get to do that shit when you're in Los Angeles. I am also a civil engineer, licensed in the state of California. Recently dusted that off because I'm fortunate enough to be in a position that I'm going to try and build my own residence here in LA on a hillside property. But I moved out here to be a screenwriter, and I have been trying to do that for 17 years. And the update 3 months ago would have been like, not much is happening there, but somehow a script got optioned in December and was produced in March. And so what I'm grateful for is that we started filming this low-budget teen slasher movie on March 10th while the coronavirus was setting in. We had a young cast. We have an actress in from Australia and a camera crew in from Texas. And we knew if we didn't finish that we weren't going to finish. But we also knew that it was getting weird. It got weirder and weirder every day. We were able to follow the guidelines. We were a small production. We had less than 45 crew and cast, which meant we were okay up until Thursday, March 19th, when the mayor was like, all right, no gatherings more than 10 people. So we took the last 2 days of filming and just used the bare minimum, like whatever cast was in the shot, 2 cameramen, 2 sound people, the director, and like someone to go get lunch. And we got the whole thing in the can before they really locked down everything last Monday. That's what I'm most grateful for. What I'm least grateful for is like 5 or 6 days after that film wrapped, about my 6th day of real quarantine, I developed some sort of symptom like a scratchy throat or a sore throat or whatever. And with everything going on, I obviously lay awake being like, all right, this time tomorrow, I'm going to be intubated. And it was just like fucking terrifying. As it turned out, I don't seem to have developed any further symptoms. I don't have fevers. I'm able to breathe. So I remain, I believe, COVID-free or maybe only suffering mild symptoms. I have no idea. Access to testing is appalling for a developed nation, but that's where we're at. So I have no fucking idea. I just will hope I don't have it. And I'm glad to be quarantining. Glad I've got my husband, Ben, here, who I met in 2008, married in 2013, and we have 2 cats, and he's an actor. We spend a lot of time at home together anyway, so this is kind of a piece of cake.
Dude,
That's me.
I heard that the way to get tested in the U.S. is to cough on a rich person.
Yep.
I heard that the way to get tested in the U.S. is to cough on a rich person, and then they get tested, and then you know if you've got it. And you should be surrounded by those people. Just go cough on
Totally.
someone.
That's totally what I'm going to do. I'm waiting for someone from the film I'm waiting for one of the executive producers from the film to test positive for it, and then I'll know.
Fuck.
All right, Mike, where are you at? What are you drinking?
Mike Wigglesworth here, beautiful Fernie, British Columbia, which is about 3 hours southwest from Calgary in beautiful Elk Valley, the interior BC. Been here for a couple of years. I am drinking a product of the Fernie Brewing Company, known as a Professor. It's an amber lager. It's clean, rich, and malty. It's delicious. Been here for a couple of years. After 3 years in Calgary, company I worked for, I basically had the same job for about 20 years. The company I worked for, which is a Calgary-based company, got acquired 2 years ago. And at that point, the Calgary head office no longer the head office. So we took the opportunity to jump ship, and we were spending all of our weekends here anyway. My wife's a mountain girl, skiing, biking, hiking. We're an outdoor family, so we made the leap to move here permanently. So I'm a home office guy. I work out of my home office about probably 40% of the time. I'm overseas. I travel internationally. I'm actually just 3-4 days out of quarantine because I was overseas a couple of weeks ago. I was in Libya, which I go to. We lived in years and still visit. I was in Europe, so I was an easy guy, easy to isolate because everyone's afraid of me, thinking I had this nasty disease. But luckily, I've been healthy. So yeah, grateful for that. I've got a wife, 3 kids, 9. Almost. I guess we're 9, almost 12, and 14. So 3 great kids, boy, girl, and a dog. Loving in this small town, and also. So I have a great balance, live in a small, beautiful mountain town, and get to travel to interesting places, and eat good food, and talk to interesting people, and living the dream, living my dream anyway. Life's good. Sorry, Kersey, I can't remember my questions. What am I?
That's all right. We'll get it to him in a sec.
I feel like, Duncan, you skipped ahead.
Did I?
He's
Absolutely. Always ahead of the curve.
He's just proactive. That's all.
He's ahead of the curve. You're just ahead of it, man. You're ahead of us. That's all.
I thought I covered all the bases. You have to let me know what I missed.
Todd, what's going on with you? Where are you?
You covered everything.
Hi guys, how's it going? Good to see everybody. So Todd Anderson, most of you guys know me as Garth. Long story behind that, but in my 40s, mechanical engineer. I spent most of it in product development, a number of different areas, including automotive, snowboarding, toys, and now kitchen appliances and whatnot. It's taken me, the last 20 years have taken me around the world 5 or 6 times in various places, spent a lot of time in a lot of crazy factories. Currently living in Oakville, Ontario, 2 kids, boys. Gavin's 12, Rowan's 9. I just adopted 2 dogs today named Freddie and Rocky, and they are Chihuahuas. Today. I got home an hour ago. Today. So that's it.
Now we know why you're in the basement.
There we go. Get away from the craziness. Beautiful wife, Michelle, who I met at university 24 years ago, 25 years ago. And she's still putting up with me, so that's great. And I am sitting here with you, distinguished gentlemen, enjoying a innocent gun. And we'll wait for the CGI to end on there. Innocent gun.
That's a trip.
Yeah, that green screen needs some work.
Yeah, I didn't write the program.
Well, great. Thanks, guys. Thanks all for joining. I'm super excited to get you all together. It's been a long time, and let's jump in. So, Mike, you want to go first? Tell us some recent high point you've had in your life. What's gone on that you've enjoyed recently? Some achievement you've had.
A default answer, of course. I mean, I'm so lucky with my health and my family, and I got 3 great kids and a fantastic wife, and life is amazing. So if we use that as table stakes, and well, I don't know if everyone's like that, but at least for me, super thankful for that. But sort of an interesting story, which I suppose is probably kind of the point. I was in Libya recently, and we've been in Libya for about 20 years, and I lived there for a few years myself, and it's kind of fun. There's all sorts of political people there and so on, and you know, we've had to extend our business license and so on. And it's kind of a weird random story, and lots of conflict and political upheaval and so on. But yeah, I was there recently, and it's kind of fun to so for our small little company to have such a big impact in the place and sort of reputation in place. We've made some strategic decisions to keep operating there and keep our employee there and keep the business operating. And I had sort of fun anecdote there a couple weeks ago where we were extending our business license, and the chairman of the central bank of Libya, or one of the central banks of Libya, it's complicated. But anyway, he was in this office, and this bureaucrat was giving a hard time of not extending the license for stuff. And the chairman of the central bank walks in, and he's like, "Oh, Pure Technology, I know this company. He used to be the chairman of the finance for the water company there. I'm in the water business." And the guy, this bureaucrat sitting at the desk in the Ministry of Foreign Companies, or whatever, Ministry of the Economy in Beta, he's saying, "Yeah, this company, this and that," and trying to get the right paperwork. And this chairman of the central bank says, "Look, if you want your water supply to be like it was in the 80s, be difficult. But otherwise, I recommend you stamp this paperwork." So it was a pretty awesome experience to hear this anecdote of these guys, like knowing our company and the impact that we made. And not a lot of people have been over there. And so it's kind of a fun little thing recently. I'm super grateful for the company I work with and the people I work with, and the impact we've made on that country, frankly. So it's been kind of a cool little random thing, that, you know, one of those things that such a small minutia people that actually understand, but it was a pretty neat experience for me. So yeah, that's just one little thing. Grateful for the company I work for and the people I work with, and alhamdulillah.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Interesting world we live in. Yes.
Must be nice to be like halfway around the world and still have people recognize your company and all the impact you have.
Man, it's great to rock up to Benghazi, and, you know, people at the airport, I mean, not a lot of big tall white dudes strolling to Benghazi and speak a little Arabic, so, you know, it's kind of fun. And then, yeah, to have that sort of reputation was pretty neat. So yeah, it was good. So it's good to have an impact in places.
Amazing.
It's fun. Global economy, and I love traveling globally, and like I said, eating weird food and talking to weird people, and but yeah, just a reminder that we're all in this together, sort of thing. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, especially nowadays with everything going on, that when you're able to travel around the world like you and Todd,
big time.
Gives you a different perspective, brings everyone closer together.
Yeah, Garth, we should trade stories, man.
Not much time.
Garth, what do you got? You want to share a high point?
Yeah, sure. High point. I would say a big high point for me. I mean, apart from, you know, finding love and having a great family and health and stuff like that as well, is for me, I think a big highlight was me when I actually got a job at a snowboard company. And for me, for you guys that know me, I was laser focused on getting a job where I could design snowboards. That was my dream job. You know, it's 1990, that was it. And in 2002, that came to reality, which was awesome. And, you know, I was I got the job, and a week later I was on a plane. I was going to Hong Kong, and then I was going to North China and South China and checking out factories and all this stuff. And it was super amazing. And it really opened my eyes. And it was you know, I've been working as a project engineer, manufacturing engineer, but the break I got to get this job that I've always wanted set me on a totally different trajectory for my career that has still, you know, I've stayed on that course because I've found I truly love developing products, no matter what really they are, the intricacies, the complexities of it all, and just the whole process of it, which was awesome. So I think that, you know, be able to join sort of your passion and your career and all that stuff together was a huge highlight, and it always will be for sure.
Nice. Congratulations. We all know that was a dream of yours at university, and you worked hard to get it, man. Good for you.
I now see
Garth,
how
we're
I
gonna-
completely fucked the format of this thing up. So y'all just finish the whole thing, and we'll just come back to me. We do closing statements.
Paul, what do you got? You got a high point you want to share before Duncan jumps
Gar-
back in?
No, I'm done, man. I'm out. You come get me at the end when you guys are all done.
High points. So I think I kind of have to touch on a few. I think definitely, following what Mike and Todd said about family. Very wonderful, supporting wife, 2 great kids. Everybody's healthy, very happy. I often complain about them, but truth of the matter is they're wonderful and they're fabulous. Career-wise, highlight probably November, named COO of my company. Not a big business, but it was a big jump for me. I got a lot more recognition from people in the industry that I didn't expect. People that I've looked up to and admired that I thought it would just kind of go unnoticed, but they reached out on a personal level to congratulate me and say it was well deserved and stuff. So that was career-wise, that was a big moment for me. Corporately, we had a record year. It's a friend's business that I'm running, and to take it to a level in the last 2 years that he wasn't able to achieve on his own was something really rewarding for me, especially since I looked up to him and respected him quite a bit, and still do, obviously. But to know that I could take what he had done and take to the next level was a huge achievement. On a personal level, my daughter started playing hockey this year. I never thought I would be the dad of a daughter who played hockey.
Proud Pappy.
She did really, really well, and she enjoys it. She likes going out and beating up on the boys, which is good. And then my son, he's playing all-star hockey in the GTHL, and he had a really good year. He's with a really good group of kids. He learned a lot. He developed a lot. And for the wife and I to spend 4 or 5 days in an arena, it was really rewarding. It was sad to see it come to such an abrupt end with all of this. Very hard on them too. So that was the high and the low. I'm going to skip ahead too, Duncan. Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's a good point. How everything is kind of connected.
Can we use the time?
Sometimes our lows come right after.
Can we use the time that Duncan was going to take?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mike. Pick it up, buddy. Let the professor speak.
It's a
I
delay.
yield the floor.
So I've got a delay. I'm sorry. Small town.
No worries.
I was going to say, can we use the time that Duncan was going to go and get more beer? Can I
Yeah.
use that time to get more beer? Duncan was going to use.
Can do that.
Garth is running low too. I say.
How do you know? I literally got a sip left. ESP.
Duncan, what do you say? You said your high point was doing this production that you were able to get going. How did it make you feel? I mean, that's something you've been working on for a long. I feel that is something you've been working on for a long time.
I think that's amazing, dude.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, how did you feel about it?
Thanks. So it was shocking because, it's a really weird career. And Dustin and I, different Dustin Dinoff, a friend of mine from middle school, we're writing partners.
Dustin
We
Diamond.
wrote the script probably 15 years ago. And it was like a slasher script. It was the most commercial thing we'd ever written. And it was at the behest of someone who asked us to write something in the vein of Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer. And we gave it a Scream for the Facebook generation was kind of the pitch for this script. And we wrote it and it had some traction under it and it almost got produced. And we had this guy named Seth Howard who was championing the script. This was back in 2009. And he loved it and he almost got it funded. And then the whole thing fell apart and we just kind of forgot about it. I hadn't looked at the script since 2012. And then Whatever, life goes along. Ben, like I said, Ben is an actor. I still write, but in terms of getting like scripts, writing scripts and pitching them and getting them sold and produced was a journey I'd sort of abandoned because it's just like a monster. And I was just on a different path. And then because I'm building a house and I probably have this plan of like, oh, well, I'll finish this house. I'll use the equity in the house to get some real money behind a project and go that route for self-producing. So much to my surprise, I went to a more cowbell.
More cowbell. More cowbell.
You know what this needs is more cowbell.
So I went to a screening in October for a friend of ours who's a low-budget film producer, and the only reason we went was because this guy does Canadian film credit stuff. He's not Canadian, but he knows there's a bunch of people in LA that know how to mine the Canadian government for their tax credits. And so there's a whole industry of going up and filming shit in Canada and having the Canadian government pay for half of it. And this guy's an expert at that. And he had filmed something in Sudbury, and my parents are from Sudbury. So I'm like, well, I got to go see this low budget film made in Sudbury. So we went to this screening, and I ran into this guy, Seth, there, who I hadn't seen in 8 years. And I walk up to him and I'm like, Seth, how's it going? And he's a crazy person. And he turns to me and he's like, I haven't stopped talking about Linked. That's the name of that script from 10 years ago. And then he turns to his friend beside him and he says, you should read it. And this guy named David Lipper was standing beside him, and he read it and called me 2 weeks later and was like, hey, I think I want to make this thing. And that's what fucking happened. So
Come on.
It was insane. I couldn't believe it. So the feeling was out of this world. I mean, it was so funny to pick Dustin up at the airport, again, the other Dustin up at the airport, and be like, wow, in 2002, I always imagined I would come and pick you up at the airport, and then we would go and watch someone like make our movie. And the fact that it took like 10 years longer than I expected has actually made it sweeter. It's actually better this way. So it was, dude, it was a dream. It was a dream that came true, and it was really, really awesome. And the film is going to be very fun. And I don't know where it's going to screen because I think this whole COVID-19 thing will play into it because no one else is able to make anything. And so we're going to come out of this thing. We're going to crawl out of our caves in 3 months. Everyone will have seen Tiger King 4 times. And we'll be the last movie that was in production in LA before they like drop the hammer. And so I don't know.
That's crazy.
It'll be somewhere. It'll be on a Netflix or an Amazon or maybe at a theater if we get really lucky.
That's an amazing story.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the boost. It really was a weird struggle. 2 months ago, I would have been like, whatever. I'm still hacking away at it. But it was a real turn of events. And it was total fucking luck. It was definitely not skill-based. It was just fucking dumbass luck that I went to that screening and that guy was there.
But what a wait and hurry up, right? Like 15 years and then boom, got it, let's go. Oh shit, coronavirus, get it done. Hurry the fuck up, let's go, out. Right?
Just to make it extra insane. Yeah, just because it wasn't memorable enough as it was breaking, right? It had to go that way.
But that's it's mint that 2 Canadian guys wrote it.
Goes without saying, obviously.
Put together in Canada out of fluke.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this wound up being an American production.
My wife's...
Yeah. Sorry, who's up?
I think Mike's trying to say something.
No.
Got that dial up.
I apologize for my leg. It's really messing with the banter.
Got mail.
I was just gonna say, my wife's parents are from Lively, just outside of Sudbury there.
Oh,
Lively, Azilda. No.
Yep. That's cool. So she's a Northern Ontario girl.
Yeah, so spent some time. She was born in Oshawa.
Right.
But we spent a lot of time up in the Sudbury area. Her father uncle is the CEO of Science North.
Oh wow, badass!
And get
That's
you
a big
for free.
part of my childhood. Science.
Whoa, no way.
That's a wonderful place.
Yeah. Cool dude. Anyway, we go up there every couple of summers. They've got what they call a camp. It's not a cottage. Once you're north of the French, what do they call it, French River? Once you're the French River, it's a camp, not a cottage, right? So
I'm familiar.
So they've got a camp up on
camp as well.
Lake Manistic, if you know what that is.
Isn't it a cabin out west? Not
It
in
is.
the
Awesome.
cottage,
Keep
it's
us
a
posted.
cabin.
There's a lot of that. Yeah, you're right. You should come out and ride in Fernie, man. Let me know if you ever come out. I'll put
I
free
will.
places.
I was actually just
Stay.
in Red. I was just in Red Mountain
Oh.
and
Oh.
Whitewater a couple weeks ago with a friend, actually,
No way, so
Elise
was I.
Perret, who these guys would know. You guys all know Elise. Elise is living out there in Rossland. So
Yeah, no shit. Yeah.
yeah,
Brooklyn.
so we sort of lucked out. Hey, we're gonna go out, do some cat skiing, and Red's got a world-renowned cat program out there. So we did that 2019, and then we had so much fun. We doubled down and came back again this year. So lots of good times hanging out with Elise and her husband. Did a bunch of riding, like resort and backcountry and the whole deal. And man, like some of the best turns of my life. So definitely that's another high point, like asterisk on it as well. It's just like.
Yeah, Red, super fun. I was out there about a month and a half ago. It's a super fun hill.
Yeah, that's great.
I didn't know she lived there. I thought she's still in Golden, but obviously she moved.
Yeah, so she moved a bit ago, I guess, and then now she's like right in Rossland. So she's at foothills of the Red, right there. So yeah, like a good little setup, and she's running a water management surveying outfit in Rossland right now. So she's got great setup out there as well. Super happy and riding a ton and just loving it.
Yeah, Mike, I feel like you and Elise have some connection with water supply and stuff. Maybe that's just my ignorant belief of what you guys do, but anyway. Thanks,
Gotta be
guys.
some overlap somewhere.
Exactly. Thanks, guys, for sharing your high points. The whole objective of this thing is to just, some people out there are having trouble with isolation, being cut off from other people. Also families, some families are struggling with like their kids being home all the time, and what the heck do we talk about, and how do we keep people off devices and that sort of thing. So we're just trying to give a structure to people, like, hey, talk about one thing, your one high point that happened for you. Talk about, one low point that happened for you. And I think that's where we're going to go next, is like, not because we want to be depressed, but more about like starting those conversations with your family and your kids to make sure that you're aware of the things that might be dragging them down. What do you got to say, Mike?
What's your high point, Kersey? You're not off the hook here.
Yeah. Good call.
Good job, Mike. I was
Come
gonna say,
on, cough it up.
Yeah, I don't think you guys are going to be impressed, but honestly,
better involve a shipwreck and buried treasure.
it really means a lot to me that all I had to do was send out one message to get on a Zoom call with you guys, and everyone was like, yes, 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 yes. We literally, a lot of us have not seen each other in definitely over 15 years, closer to 20 years, and nobody hesitated. I am so, there was nothing there has been nothing this week I have looked forward to more than talking to you guys just about life in general.
You've been on the island too long, my
Where were
friend.
you guys yesterday?
Yeah.
You're living in a paradise, and you talk about us bums. What a cop out.
It's funny when you talk about living in paradise, though, because there's living in paradise because it's Cayman and you're out on the beach, and there's scuba diving and stuff I love to do. I also miss like the stuff that you guys are doing, being at home in Canada, skiing up in the mountains, going to Fernie, going to Red, doing powder, doing just everything. So it's, it doesn't matter where you live. There's always something to be grateful for, something that'll bring you a high point in your life. You just gotta, I think the thing to learn about high points, and honestly, I don't think it's something we need to teach you guys. You guys are well aware, but take the time to celebrate those high points. Sit back, have a drink, relax, think about how great it was to ski POW at Fernie's. Think about the dump of snow that's there that you get to play in tomorrow. Think about the great screenwriting, production and movie you just created. Take time to celebrate. Don't just breeze over that stuff. Take time to share it with your friends. Have a drink. Tell everyone how great you are.
Yeah, nice. I think, Kersey, that's a good one too. Just about like even you can't know the sweet without the sour, or you can't know the high without the low, and there's you know, Matt Damon went on social media and everyone talked about this weekend, but like I saw this as a couple of memes on social media in the last little bit, and they said, other generations were called to do great things like go to war, and we've been asked to like, sit at home on the couch. Like we can do this, and it's like it's real perspective. Like, my grandparents, our grandparents, like these guys, like I have fantastic stories about my grandfather, jumping out of a burning Lancaster, like being, hidden in the basement of a French farmhouse, away from the Germans and be smuggled back to cross the lines to England. And, like he's like 30 years old when this shit happened, right? When I was 30, I'm like, well, Sparta, right? Like all that crap, it's that kind of stuff. And like, a little, just for reference and things here, like, so in 2003, I was in Asia when SARS broke out. And I was on lockdown in a hotel in Shanghai for a week. And I couldn't leave the hotel. I couldn't get a flight and all this stuff. And like, I was, I was, apart from swine and the avian flu, like SARS was like a major thing, especially in Toronto because we were such an epicenter for it. But like, I remember being like, I was fucking scared, like I'm in the middle of Asia, like away from everybody. No one knew shit about what was going on with SARS and stuff like that. They didn't know like, how it spread, how long it lasted, was it airborne, could you get it just breathing air from somebody else, all sorts of stuff. And when I came home, I went through 12 days of quarantine. And I flew home. I flew home in the worst flight, like Shanghai to San Francisco to Chicago, Chicago to Toronto. Like it was terrible. It was the only flight I could get. And I walked on a plane and everybody was in masks. And somebody sneezed and somebody coughed and everybody started freaking out. Like it was terrible. It was a terrible situation. And like we know more about COVID-19 than we did at that time at SARS. I came home, they just said, do you know what to do if you get sick? I was like, I think so. Okay, go ahead. And they let me go through. And then I couldn't go home because I had a roommate and she worked at a company that said, if he comes home, you're quarantined. So she had to tell me like, please don't come home to our apartment. So fortunately, I got to stay with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, at the time there. And she was on the front line wearing an N95 mask. But it was like, to me, that was like one of the craziest things I've been through. And for now to put in perspective to say, okay, COVID is here. We know about it. It's spread elsewhere. Before Canada is not one of those epicenters, although it's included. To say, okay, just stay at home and chill and do your work from home. And we have the technology to do all that. I mean, to me, that it's such a small thing to say, and I'm thankful for that. Like to reflect on a similar low point and know that I'm not in that same situation. I've had the ability to be in a better situation for something similar.
What a great example to give yourself like some perspective in life, like just in general, having been through something similar, but I mean, that's like you said, it's so interesting now how fast the information is getting to each of us. Like I can pull up a screen on my computer in Cayman and know how many confirmed cases there are around the world.
Yeah, within the last hour. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's not exactly right, but it's probably in the ballpark, right? At least of confirmed cases that have been tested.
Yeah, totally.
The stuff that has happened since well, all of us, I think, but definitely Duncan and Mike, like when we started university, email was just coming out. Like we got university emails, right? And that's how
my first email was in university.
Exactly.
Same.
Yeah.
I remember when I went to McMaster during my freshman year, having a guy in his third year, Christos Pathenio, explain to me that the McMaster Engineering Society was making a web page. And I'm like, what the fuck is a web page?
I didn't even know what the internet I showed up. I was like, the internet? What the hell's the internet?
The internet's on computers now, the internet. Actually, just today, Kersey, in anticipation of this call, I was out for a run with Mel. And I was saying, I think Dustin Kersey invited me to Facebook in 2003, or 2004, because Karen's boyfriend, whatever, he was a U.S. grad, right? And So when Facebook sort of went from under U.S. colleges, you invited me to Facebook. You're like such a visionary, man. You're so cool. But the Facebook, I remember like Kersey invited me to Facebook. 2001. Was that 3 or 4 or something? I don't know.
Yeah. And now I'm inviting you to a Zoom call.
Zoom.
This is my first Zoom call of the quarantine. Probably not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. My first Zoom.
Half my team meetings are Zoom calls.
Paul,
and the other are honestly drinks with like other neighborhood dads and buddies.
Paul, tell me some low point you've experienced.
Low point. You know what?
What? Sorry, Muffin. Sorry to interrupt. What are the riverbanks here, Curry? Is it in the last 20 years or last year or recent or any rules here for low point? Give us some boundaries here.
Oh, okay. Let's do a low point in the last. Well, honestly, yeah. Okay, with you guys, what's a low point in the last 5 years then?
Last 5 years.
Oh, it could be as recent as a week ago. Like, to be clear, clear, as I'm sharing this structure with people, and while you're thinking, Paul, like the idea is it doesn't have to be monumental, right? Like you're talking to your kids around the table. It can be like, hey, the training wheels fell off my bike today and I fell over and scraped my knee. That was my low point. Like, it can be whatever. We had a call the other day and one guy was like, I got stuck in traffic. That was my low point of the week. It was like brutal. I hated it, whatever. He got stopped by police to ask where he was going, that sort of thing. But good point, Mike. I appreciate that. That's, we haven't talked in 20 years. So yeah, give some scale. How about 5 years? Let's go in the last.
Okay, low point. I'm going to go last week. Honestly, last Tuesday, I had to let 2 people go because job sites have slowed down. One guy had a newborn daughter, 3 months old. Other guy, that's terrible, but like his best friend had just died like a month ago and he was kind of at the bottom. But they were both kind of guys that had to go. And when I had to trim a little fat, since things have slowed down, they were on the block and I had to really buckle down and make a business decision and let the both of them go. But it was quite possibly the 2 worst conversations I've had to have for as long as I can remember. Yeah.
Marconi, were those the first 2 people you've ever let go?
No. But they were the 2 worst conversations I've had to have. Yeah. And a low point coming up. Tomorrow is my grandfather's 96th birthday, and nobody can go see him.
Oh my God!
Not looking forward to tomorrow.
You should invite him to a Zoom meeting.
That would be amazing, actually.
Right?
He'd be so angry.
Deliver some booze over there to him.
He would be. You know what I am going to do though?
Maybe a dancer.
I'm going to drop some cigars off at the security desk in his condo and tell him to come down and pick them up.
If I'm 96, I am starting to smoke, do cocaine, skydive, all of it. No problem.
Every day of his life since he was 15. Yeah, he likes his cigars.
Curtis, you remember going to Muffin's place for dinner?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We had some good food.
The family style, the big platters of food.
That's right.
Yeah. I forgot about that. That was hilarious.
That was definitely a high point of my life. Yeah, for sure.
What about the ride program? After I drove you guys downtown from your apartment on Gordon Street. Remember that?
Dude, I remember that. I remember that.
You had a Santa hat on.
Remember that
with
little
lights.
Called the audible.
Yeah. Got pulled over. Why did you dodge the ride?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Garth, what connection do you have to the city of Guelph? Mike went to school there. Dustin lived there. Duncan's mother lives there. I grew up there. What do you have?
My parents both went to university there. And both my brothers were born there.
Oh,
that's a real connection.
Greatest city ever.
It is.
And I can spell Guelph. Hey,
you weren't expecting that much.
Where's the hat trick?
The royal city. Well done.
Wasn't expecting that answer, were you, Muffin?
Nope. Not at all. Oh man.
So Duncan, your low point was the shutting down of your production, or just the speeding up of having to get it done?
No, the low point was so the having to so we wound up we had a 14-day shoot schedule, and we had to compact that into 11 days to get it done responsibly as possible. But the low point was this moment last Friday night of lying, like, because when there's a global pandemic, you know, it does things on you, right? So Friday night would have been like 5 days after our last day of filming. So that would have been my last day of contact with a bunch of people. And so, you know, this thing sets in after like 5 to 14 days. And so Friday night, I start feeling this like tickle in my throat, which under normal circumstances, I would have been like, oh, the sun just went down. It's springtime, pollen in the air, it's probably my allergies kicking up. That's where I would have gone normally. But with this fucking thing, I went to bed and I'm like, I've got it. I got it on that production. The greatest thing that ever happened to me is going to kill me. You know, you go, I don't know about you guys, but I went crazy fucking places just because the psychology and just the intent, like it has been nothing but adrenaline as this thing has been dropping. I mean, we were filming this movie, we were adapting to it. It was kind of fun and exciting to be adapting to it. But then suddenly it was over and we were home, and now it was just like sitting around. And in that moment, I'm like, you know, I'm too young to die. It was a real low point. And we have a roommate here who's a wonderful guy, but he's elderly. He's 69 years old. And so we can't bring that into the house because there's a whole, like, he's so vulnerable to it. So it was this very, like, just a very, very scary situation where suddenly the fun and the suddenly the fun and the excitement of the previous week's activities could be portrayed as like reckless behavior that was now going to have serious, serious consequences. And that was sobering for sure. And that was low. It was low. Now I woke up the next morning and I'd gotten some sleep and I'd calmed the fuck down, and I feel a lot better, and I think I'm fine. But yeah, that was it. It was some quarantine, that was some COVID-19 realness. I hope that's as real as it gets for me.
Does anybody know anybody who has it right now?
No,
Nope.
I'm really grateful that I don't.
That's
You know,
great.
I worry. My mom in Guelph is the one person I'm worried the most about.
Mike's got his hand up. Mike, you know
Vulnerable
somebody, Mike?
populations. Just like I'm sure you're worried about your grandpa at 96, just cause.
Yeah.
But no. So far, I don't know anyone personally.
Good to hear.
Yeah, it's funny how like that low, especially coming off a high of doing your production, your mind can just start racing and start making a story, and especially, I don't know, maybe just your industry, but I don't believe that's true. But especially in your industry where you do make stories, it's like you're even more susceptible to be like, oh, my creative mind is just running away with me now, and
we're a tiny bit neurotic. Yeah, it's a true story.
Yeah. What do you got, Mike? You got any low points you want to share?
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't know. I mean, most of my low points are stupid shit, like corporate bullshit and forecasts and revenue and all that bullshit, and missing my OI and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I would say the last couple of years have been pretty stressful corporately. We got acquired there in almost exactly 2 years ago. And we went from a company of 500 to a company of 17,000. And all the pros and cons that come with that. You know, there's lots of good things. And it's a great home for us. I'm not in the company now, but it's definitely been a change. You know, the senior leadership gone and so on. So I would say it was a tough couple of years. You know, people always said to me, hey, how you doing? I said, well, you know what? The important stuff's good. And, you know, health is good and family's good. And I would say, I don't know, Garth, what you're feeling, but, you know, traveling around the world, one of the greatest things about traveling around the world is like perspective for me. It's pretty easy for me to ground myself like quickly. Like, you know, I actually did, geez, I missed my revenue target by 15%. Well, what do you fucking do? Like, I just came from a place and I've seen way worse. And like, you know what? I don't give a shit. Oh, I missed my bonus. You know what? I'm still living the dream. So I definitely value that. And it's like I said, it's easy to ground myself. I find it pretty easy to ground myself. So yeah, it's a tough couple, but we've just done a bit of a restructuring and sort of come back out of it and a bit of a reset. So feeling pretty positive about things. You know, obviously corporate is going to be a show here next quarter, especially in yada yada. But again, it is what it is, and carry on. I'd say a low point recently. I actually had a guy in Libya. He's been sick for a long time. He actually passed away on Friday night, which is kind of a shitty story. One of those things, the guy's been sick for a long time. One of those things kind of is really sad, but also a bit of a blessing. And actually, his wife pulled him out of the hospital in Benghazi. Talking about poor medical facilities. Because of the fears of the COVID, she pulled him out of the hospital because she was afraid he was going to die from the COVID. Pulled him out, brought him home, died at home 2 days later. And so it was pretty sad, but on the other hand, I had to have so kind of a low thing, but again, and I sort of take these low points and relatively speaking, in the grand scheme of things, and we are so good in this part of the world. Like, it's just shocking how good our life is, all things considered. So
most
blessing and
most of my-
curse. What
Sorry.
can I say? But
Dustin, can I hop off script for a second? Because Mike, I
anyway.
wanted to ask you, since you mentioned your friend in Libya, and I'm really sorry about your friend and you're losing him. And
Thanks.
I thought of you a lot. I've thought of you a lot in the past few years because of what happened to Libya. It was such a beautiful country, and I know that you loved it. I worked with a Libyan guy back in my stint in the oil field, and he was just a lovely fellow. He always embodied like the whole Libyan country for me. He was just this like warm-hearted octopus diver, engineer guy. He was just a lovely person, and he talked so much with so much pride about Libya, and it was such a beautiful country, and it just got blown to smithereens. And I really thought of you, or at least my impression of it is that it was blown to smithereens. And then I thought of you because I knew that you had so much business there, and that you yourself had a real love for that country. So I want to ask you a little bit more about like that journey for you, seeing what that country's been through, and if you could tell us any more about it. Because I follow oil markets fairly religiously. My hobby is tracking like the rise of electric vehicles and the decline of the fossil fuel industry. And so I'm up on Libya as far as like major turning points and General Haftar and all that nonsense, but I don't know anything about what it's like for someone who goes there and knows it.
Yeah. No, it's been interesting, right? I mean, it's great kind of, someone said it's got great bones, I think is a good way to put it. Like, it's huge potential and poorly managed, of course, over the years, and you know, the revolution of 2011 and all the hope and optimism that followed it, and all the shitstorm that came after that. And you know, Chris Stevens, the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador, we actually knew him pretty well. I was just texting with a buddy of mine. Some of you may have seen that movie 13 Hours, which is the whole Benghazi story, which I've never actually watched. I sort of watched the first 5 minutes and tough to swallow the Hollywood rendition. But a buddy of mine was actually texting me about, hey, you seen that 13 Hours? And so actually, Mel and I, my wife and I, we knew the ambassador, Chris Stevens, and we were invited to the Marine Ball, which is a big U.S. foreign thing. And Mel baked, Chris Stevens was the ambassador. He loved Mel's cake, and we had him at our house once. And we went to the Marine Ball. Mel baked the cake for the Marine Ball. So we knew that story pretty well. And pretty sad to see the things have happened. At the same time, you know, life goes on. I always admire the resilience of Libyan people. There's a lot of foreign proxy crap going on there, and I'm hopeful that, you know, the shit will resolve itself. But you know, Eastern government, Western government, and middle governments and proxy governments, it's got a long way to go. Yeah, pretty sad, but at the same time, I'm optimistic for the place and continue to go and support the place, and I think it'll be okay in the long run, but it'll never be like other places, that's for sure. I mean,
Are Libyans, do
complex
Libyans,
tapestry of.
oh, sorry.
But,
Sorry about the delay. Do Libyans miss the stability of
no, I've got
Gaddafi, or was he just a nightmare to live under, and this is better than that?
Yeah, it's you hear different people. Some people think it's better. Some people think it's worse. Some people, well, I mean, I think it's generally accepted that life now is not as good as it was, but some people would argue that it's worth it. Some would say it's not.
Right.
So some people want Haftar and the stability of a strongman. Some people are happy to have him in form. Some people want no part of him. You know, there's a huge range of that. But most people just want to get on with their lives. That's the thing about all this crap and all these places, that most people don't give a shit about Democrats, Republicans, left to right, religion, not religion, yada yada. It's just, can I get a fresh food on the table for my family and a roof over my head and a healthy healthcare and schooling. I mean, most people just want that and don't give a shit about the rest of it. So that's consistent, maybe like it is in most places, I think. So there you go. People are people.
Yeah, that was my experience in the oil business too. People want exactly the same thing, no matter what part of the world they're from. So.
I agree 100%, Duncan and Mike. I mean, you look at all the things going on and, you know, all this stuff that comes up in politics and these people, you know, trying to purport their agendas. But the fact of the matter is, everyone just wants the same thing. I mean, there's more that unites us than separates us, let's say. And, you know, the 2 points I wanted to make was reinforce what you guys said about that, and the fact that, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're in Libya, it doesn't matter whether you're in the Cayman Islands, it doesn't matter whether you're in Canada or China or Hong Kong. I mean, people just want to look after each other and feel safe and, you know, live their life and have some fun. It doesn't really change. The second thing is, Duncan, you asking to go off script, that's the whole point. Like, the whole point of this exercise is to have a structure that you can follow if the conversation dies. This is not the case with us, and that was what I expected. I mean, we have a good, fantastic group of people here with diverse experience, all starting from a similar vantage point, at least 20 years ago. But I mean, it's rich. The whole conversation, just having this type of conversation that leads into, hey, what are you happy for? What are you upset about? What do you want to do next? It just leads to a bigger conversation, just an icebreaker type thing, if nothing else, right? Just icebreaker to get you going. So thanks for taking us down that road. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
I'm reminded suddenly of that scene from The Meaning of Life, where they're at that restaurant, they order the conversations. Is anyone else from?
Yeah.
You take this back. This conversation isn't very good.
That's awesome. It's funny though, what you guys touched on with all these governments and all this political banter and stuff, how most people just don't care about it. It struck me last Wednesday. I was sitting on a conference call, and I was sitting there and people were talking about, oh, how the government's going to announce this and they're going to do that, and they've been having these meetings and they're trying to deal with this and that and the other thing. And I said, these are the people that we're entrusting to set the rules and the guidelines for us to navigate our way through this right now. And these are the people that I try and put on the back burner in the back of my mind and not listen to, because I can't stand what they say half the time. And I don't usually trust what they say. And now we're putting all of our faith in the decisions and the guidelines they're setting out. And I had this 5 minutes where I think I actually started to sweat, and I was just like, sweat more than I usually do. And I was just like, oh God, like panic mode. Why are we letting these people drive the ship right now? That was my one moment of panic a week ago.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But good things.
I have nothing but confidence in the leadership of this country. We are so equipped.
For the record, that is recorded, and we will play that back for you at a later date.
Cali's it's such a red state, isn't it?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
I've been hearing nothing but rave reviews
Yeah.
about Doug Ford. Actually, people don't usually support Mark, saying he's doing a good job. So
My mom hates Doug Ford, and she's got nothing but good things to say about him, for sure.
Oh man,
I'm the same with Trudeau. I'm a liberal. I vote liberal, and I think Trudeau's a douchebag, but I think he's been doing a pretty good job. Got to give it to him.
Yeah, I'm not going to criticize any of them right now because.
Oh, you can criticize ours. I mean, come on. He had the My Pillow guy on. I mean, fuck off, My Pillow. You see that? You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but I'm going to refrain.
That's when I knew we were doomed.
Nothing would surprise me.
I knew we were doomed when the My Pillow guy took the mic. I'm like, we're fucked.
Trump jumped the shark with the My Pillow guy. That's it. Fonz is on a pair of water skis. He's on a pair of water skis and a leather jacket.
It was fine. But it was fine. It was fine until then.
Right?
Yeah,
Well, there was like a certain amount of like, you know, it's still good. It's still good. There was still a certain amount of that going on. But Mike Lindell took the mic, and I'm like, that's it. It's over. Call it. We can call it.
TSN turning point.
Mike,
Yeah.
Mike and Todd, you guys weren't on the line before when Duncan was explaining or when Dustin was explaining the curfews that they have. And Dustin, I'm shocked at how structured your government has got so quickly. Like, is that common the way they operate?
No. So the Cayman Islands government is usually very, it's not like they do a bad job. It's more like the country's so small and things move so well, and there's so many wealthy people investing money here that you can't really do too much bad.
Yeah.
There were a couple big issues like, should we build a port for cruise ships to come and park here? That's been ongoing since I've been here for 20 years. And, it was reaching a climax the last 2 years where they were like ready to sign contracts for $300 million to build a port for the cruise ships. And, my thing in the last couple months has been, wow, isn't it great that we had people petitioning against that just because now we have the money to spend somewhere else? But yeah, I will agree with you. Like in general, the Cayman government, they do a good job. I am a little bit surprised by the aggressive measures they've put in place. I also very much support them because we are such a small community, 60,000 people, only 3 hospitals. Like there's only maybe 150 beds. I don't maybe my numbers are wrong, but there's only a couple hundred beds. We can't have 1,000 people that need to go to the hospital out of 60,000 people. That's not going to work. So they've been aggressive to try and make sure that the community transfer is not prolific. We did have open borders. We did have, cruise ships. We did have people flying in. We had, and up until today, just today, we had 12 cases. Today we have 2 more cases, and both of those are community transfer. The other 12 were all from people who had been traveling. So now this is our first 2 cases of people, who through interaction throughout the community have gotten transfer of the virus. And this is what we're all afraid of, is just that, to be clear, I don't think most of us are terrified we're going to die from the virus. So that's not the issue. The issue is, will the healthcare system become so overwhelmed that they won't be able to deal with the elderly or whoever? It doesn't even matter if you're elderly. You have other immunodeficiencies that won't help you fight the battle. We don't want to overwhelm our healthcare system with that and not be able to deal with, the everyday things like the pregnancies and the knee replacements and the hip replacements and the whatever else is going on.
I think that's the worry globally, is what overrun
Can you
healthcare.
use scuba gear for
No.
Sorry,
Keep going, Mike.
I apologize for the delay.
That's fine.
Oh, can you use scuba gear for a ventilator?
I've actually seen.
Don't know.
I saw an article where those full face masks now, the scuba snorkel masks. They're actually utilizing those now and sticking oxygen
That's
into
why I'm
the
asking.
snorkel
Yeah.
side. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they're utilizing that, and then I know now that they're working on. So my wife is in medical. She's a pediatric nurse, which some of you guys know, and so she was on the front line SARS. She's now back sort of on the front line here, and she's they're looking at all sorts of ways, like how do we take a mask, how do we make it reusable? Is there a shortage of masks? Like how do we sterilize a mask and make it reusable? How do we rapidly sterilize a ventilator? We have, I think most of you guys have seen, like GM is now shifting some of the production to help make ventilators. Tesla's kind of chimed in on that as well. Dyson, Labatt's are shifting some of their alcohol production to isopropyl alcohol or whatever, like for Purell and hand sanitizer, all sorts of stuff. So I mean, I've never seen
a global population or society actually like react the way that this has. And it is historic. It is, there's a lot of firsts in this as well. And yeah, um, ourselves as well as our kids will say, I remember when, we didn't go to work and we all stayed home. And, like I say, this is like their version of, I had to walk to school for 5 miles in the snow uphill both ways type of thing, right? Like that's what they're gonna say. But I go back to the whole thing, like getting on the self-isolation, everybody staying together, but we have the technology to be connected. So it's just like I think this is even a huge example of it. Like, we're living it out right now where it's like you're like, okay, I'm now less distracted by the physical world in front of me. And now I'm actually reaching out further into my network or, into people that I wouldn't, I've been too distracted to actually reach out to sometimes. And, like I find people are feel a need to connect to people that they haven't for a while in a bigger way because they're not only physically isolated, right? And we're all social beings. And I mean, us for sure we are, this small group, but like people in general. And I think that there's been a shift in which people are like less distracted, less noise in their life, and actually like trying to reach out and be closer to those people that have drifted further away. I don't know, that's my sense, that's my feeling, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
Absolutely.
Test.
There's with way less, like
Five.
we're every minute of our day prior to this is not programmed, but like just jam packed with stuff. And every time something drops off, there's 5 other things to fill in the void. This weekend, being home alone with my wife and kids, parts of it were super highs and parts of it were super lows, but the overall feeling of being there and not having to rush anywhere and do anything was amazing. And it has given me an opportunity to reconnect with people. Like we joke that like it's just us, but like I reached out to a buddy in New York City just 2 hours ago, checking in, how you doing? Haven't talked to him in over a year, kind of thing. But it just given that opportunity. But it brings a lot of people to your mind to say, hey, what are they doing? What's going on with them? Are they okay? It makes you think, right? In these moments, people that you kind of care about.
Yeah,
I think
it's a bit of a reminder, like what is real, like what is important. And I think people say it, and it sounds like cliche, but would say if you don't have your health, nothing else matters. But like I think everybody's getting that either implicitly or explicitly, but it's like and I think there's a heightened overall sense of care for our community where it's like people say, listen, to Dustin's point, I may get it and I may have some small symptoms, but it's not about me. It's about, that person I don't know that's, in that high risk, age group that like could get it and not bounce back from it. Things like that.
Yeah.
Like nobody wants to, help contribute to that statistic, right? And like in the end, it's like, okay, there's a little bit of hoarding. I think people got a little crazy, with toilet paper. Okay, don't know about that. People start buying a bunch of, hand sanitizers and that. But I think that's now calmed down. I think the toilet paper hoarders have their hoard that they're sitting on and they're okay with it. And they've been told they can't take it back to Costco. So that's, it's sort of like sweet justice. And then the other stuff is like, people are getting shut down on the profiteers on Amazon and third-party marketplace and Walmart, things like that. So I think decency is starting to shine through, like just like actual common, common human decency, which I find is like, okay, that's awesome. Like people say the world is deteriorating, it's going to shit, like no one cares about anything anymore and blah, 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 and all this stuff. But you see that, like I walk through Union Station every day, 300,000 people a day go through Union Station. I'm one of them. I go through. I actually take notice of who actually holds the door for me, who actually like, who has abandoned those tiny little human courtesies that you extend from one person to another, you give to other people and they give back to you without a word, maybe a thanks or not, or a little nod or whatever like that. But like how often or how many people have actually abandoned that? And
when I go to work every day, morning and night, that still comes back into my mind. You know, when people walk through a door that's about to shut and don't hold it, you know, and like, who cares about the person behind them, you know, and that gets me irked, you know, that people have abandoned that sense of decency. So I hope if there's good things to come out of this, I mean, there's been a lot of bad already, that the sort of like scale of human decency kind of gets reset and maybe bounced up a little bit.
I will say that whole point you're making, Todd, reminds me of something I thought about last week, which was everything that's going on in Cayman right now reminds me of what happened in 2004 when we had a massive hurricane here. The hurricane, you know, 92% of the island was underwater during the hurricane. Virtually every structure on the island had some damage to it. When we walked out, and the hurricane was one of these ones, just like Bahamas had recently, where it sat off the island for 24 hours and didn't move. Like, it just sat there for ages. So, which is not typical of a hurricane. Usually they just keep moving, and, you know, 8 hours later, you can get by it depending on how big it is. But the fact is they keep moving, typically. So this one was devastating, caused a lot of damage to the Cayman Islands, didn't have power to the whole island of Grand Cayman for 3 months. Even the key business areas didn't have power for a month, didn't accept any funding from the UK government. You know, the government was very protective of trying to protect the reputation of the island. But at that time, the people banded together. Like, the graciousness was amazing. Like, everyone was just so gracious to each other. It didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter where you're from. It didn't matter, you know, what business you were in. Everyone loved each other. I mean, I remember walking out of my house after 36 hours for the first time, walking down the road because no one had a car. They had all been flooded. And walking down the road, and basically hundreds and thousands of people walking down the road. If you saw someone that you had only seen for 30 seconds before in your life, you walked up to them, shook their hand, gave them a hug, and said, "I'm glad to see you're okay." And that type of thing, you know, was so prolific in the Cayman Islands for a number of years. So that was 2004, probably like 5, 6, 10 years. And I will say, like, you know, we're in 2020 now, 16 years later, and the Cayman Islands was getting a little, like, as far as Caribbean islands can get, it was getting a little cutthroat, a little rat race, a little, I want to hoard my beautiful house. I want to, you know, expand my wealth, that sort of thing. And this, again, has been a huge reset, and not just a huge reset for the Cayman Islands because it was an event that happened here. Now it's happening globally, which I don't know. I hope you're right. Like, I hope people can remember. And maybe this is the thing, like, maybe this is the thing that happens in our lifetime that didn't happen in, you know, other people had World War I, other people had World War II, other people had Great Depression, all this stuff. Maybe this is our thing that finally, you know, kicks us up. I don't know.
I think it's going to be really, really quite defining, because I asked, my mom's 80, and I'm like, she's like, no. I mean, she was too young to remember World War II. And then there's nothing else like this. I mean, Vietnam hit this country really hard, but even that was, you know, not as long and deep a thing that affected absolutely every person like this. So I think it's going to define a whole era. Like, World War II to this thing will be an era. And then what comes after this is just going to be a whole different mindset, because it's so, it's remarkable to me how quickly we've seen who the literal heroes are. And it's fucking grocery workers, it's food pickers, it's delivery people, nurses and medical professionals, obviously. But it's my fucking mailman and my garbage man,
truck drivers,
and they're the ones who I'm like, holy moly,
grocery
you guys are
workers.
the ones that are keeping everything going. You know, however my lights are staying on, however my water is, you know, coming out of the tap, and whoever is getting fresh fruits and vegetables into my local market, those are the people that are like literally holding society together right now. And then you got all these bankers and politicians who seem clueless. I mean, there's very little leadership coming out of the leadership. And it's almost like the people at the municipal and the provincial or state level that are showing the most leadership. It's really, I'm finding it very interesting.
So I think the difference is actually, and I think it's remarkable too. And I look at the people that are delivering have, in some ways, for me, like have enviable jobs. Like there's no long-term strategic, there's no like future lookout forecasting and 3-year plans, because nobody has a fucking clue what's going to happen next week. I mean, everyone made a plan last week. It is wrong. So forget 3 years, forget next quarter. The people that are, hey, like, yeah, delivering the truck, I got to do my job. I'm going to deliver the mail tomorrow. You know what I'm going to do tomorrow? I'm going to deliver the trucks. And like, just people getting shit done, is, which I've been enviable. Like people say, oh, what would you like to do? I'd love to be like, I don't know, a teacher, or like, I've always thought I'd be an executive assistant, or I'd always wanted to like be a barman, or like moving luggage, like stuff like that, just short term, like just day-to-day stuff. And it's so important. It just carries on, right? It's critical. But I'm sorry. And I think I agree with all the things said before, but I also want to come back to Dustin's story with the hurricane, because I got married in 2005 and you came to my wedding, which I was floored by. It was a last minute call. You came, you showed me video of your refrigerator floating in your condo. Your refrigerator floating. I'll never get that. And I also remember the story when you showed me that video, which is so funny. Like, you told me, so yeah, we took an insurance policy. Like, what was it? You paid 1 month of premiums, I think it was, because you had lived in there for like a couple of years, had no insurance. Like, you know what? We should probably get insurance. You pay 1 month of premiums, and boom, hammered by like an apocalyptic hurricane. Best decision ever. So I always think about you when I think about insurance.
Yeah, if you can imagine a group of 20 somethings living, 20. Well, maybe I was 30, maybe, but my sister and her boyfriend 20 something.
Hi guys.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
My wife brought me food. What's your part? What are your part? Oh, and a beer. So.
Duncan, hi everybody.
You remember
Hi.
Duncan? Do you remember Duncan?
Hi,
Yeah, hey Mel, nice to see you.
Duncan.
Yes,
See you, Mel.
I met Paul. That's Paul
Hi,
McClintock.
Paul. Hi, Paul.
And Scar.
Hi, Scar.
They're all saying nice to see you.
Okay.
No, but that's totally true. I mean, we went for years without any contents insurance on our place. And one day we made a decision and said, well, we have some computers in here and we have some furniture now. We should maybe get some contents insurance on this place we're renting or looking to own. And yeah, so like a month before the hurricane, we like signed a contents insurance for like $50,000, paid in, $500, and then made a big claim on it because so much stuff had been ruined. So yeah, I mean, it's not too often that our insurance pays out, but in that case, and that'll probably be the only case in my life, but yeah, it's great.
So Duncan, you commended all the kind of frontline people everywhere from, truck drivers to the people working in hospitals and stuff. I'm facing a different challenge where I'm having to tell my workers that they have to go to work. They have to put themselves at risk. And it's not for the betterment of everybody there. I'm not working on hospital projects. I'm not working on anything that's going to save any lives or, keep the power grid going or anything like that. These are commercial and industrial projects for the betterment of landlords and developers and, the owner of our company and stuff. It's a hard sell right now. Like I'm struggling. I don't even know that I believe it. Like, believing in it, saying, hey, go. So like, I'm trying to go out there and support these guys and visit the sites and encourage them and help them in any way I can, get them supplies and keep them safe, all at the same time kind of putting my family at risk because I'm coming and going all the time. But it's a hard sell when I don't even know if I believe it. Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
I guess that's the difference in perspective, because that's the difference between there being, because here the government made that decision for us, right? I mean, we were filming a movie 2 weeks ago, but we couldn't be doing that now because they've shut down any non-essential. So I guess if that came to your hood, you would know in a hurry, because for us, it's just there's certain businesses that just aren't allowed to keep running right now.
Well,
With a lot of gray area.
non-essential is closed, but they've
Yeah.
deemed the construction industry essential.
Right.
So
Which
Duncan, if
doesn't
we take that to your perspective, like, are you still allowed to work on your house, Duncan? Like, are you still allowed to take that plan forward?
I would think so. So because I'm at the plans and permitting stage as it is, and my next phase for that is to submit a bunch of crap in time for May 27th meeting that I have, which I understand is still on, because I think they've deemed that department, the planning department, still open, and operating under some sort of like COVID-19 measures. So if I had a full crew, I don't know. So I'm not in the construction phase. If I had a crew at my place that was building, I don't know. I don't know if they'd shut that down or not. I also don't know if I would. I'd like to think I would probably shut it down. Unless they needed the money, because that's the other half of it, though, right, Paul? I mean, your workers have bills to pay. I'm sure they're grateful to be able to continue to work so they can make their mortgage payments. So that right there is the fabric of society.
Yeah, and I kind of throw this around. A guy said it to me the other day. He said, "Listen, you got a 90% chance of going broke or a 2% chance of dying. They're going to show up to work."
Yeah,
and it's a shitty situation to be in.
Yeah,
but they're going to work, and I have
the joy of working for a big company. I mean, sorry, Muff. Go ahead, Paul.
No, I have guys pulling me aside. It's just wanting to be reassured that they're not next in line to be laid off. They've got one income at home or whatever, and EI is not going to cut it, or they've got a young kid or something. The other backstop of this, the owner of our company, like, he's done well over the years, but if I pay a payroll of $86,000 a month with no revenue coming in, he doesn't have the money to backstop that. You know what I mean? Or it's 87 grand a week. Like, we can't afford to do that for 4-6 weeks. Like, we'll bankrupt ourselves as it is.
Right.
So it's I don't know. It's a shit spot. I don't see it getting better.
I think it's going to get pretty dire in the next month or two.
I agree with you. I agree with you, and I'm thankful. I'm with like a $5 billion company that has 17,000 people. So CEOs come on and say, "Hey, look, we're going to look after people," and they're actually. And it's interesting. Decisions to make. People are like, "Well, the government's saying I should stay home," and other people are like, "Well, you need to go to work." And then you see some people are going to work, but they're going to work and they're saying, "Why am I going to work if so-and-so is supposed to be the same job, he's staying at home, and he's been told he's going to get paid anyway." And so we've got this bit of a game. Our company has been quite good getting ahead of it, and global companies have different rules in different jurisdictions, but they basically said, if you do go to work, we'll pay you like a danger pay. They're not calling it danger pay; they're calling it a sort of a stipend or an extra. And if you're not willing to work or not able to work, they're saying we'll pay you anyway, at least for a period of time. You don't have to take your short-term disability, you don't have to take your vacation. We'll keep you employed. They're being quite good at that, but it's because they've got $1 billion of cash and access to finances. Like, it's the small companies are going to really suffer, and I think you're in an interesting spot. You got a medium-sized and small companies like restaurants. Man, they're going to get clobbered. This town here, it's shut down right now. A friend of ours runs a gear called the Gear Hub, and he's got inventory, and they expect to sell it. They can't sell it. Their cash flow is locked. They are locked. Cash flow, man. It's cash flow, and Canada is going to really suffer.
Canada in general, I think there was, as they move through this COVID, relief package, it typically takes 12 to 18 months to get 6 days. But the big point to this, Mike, is that they said 70%, of business in Canada is small and medium business, and it's built up of, from 1 to 4 people to 50 people to 100 people, but it's not like these massive corporations. Like, there's a few that make up to 30, but there is a ton that make up to 70, and that's where it's really going to get hit. And I think we haven't even, to Duncan's point earlier, we haven't even realized the real fallout and ripple effect from all of this, and it won't for a bit.
Yeah.
On the positive side, Paul, like, I understand the struggle you're going through, sending people to work. I mean, some of that stuff about keeping the economy running is still important, right? Like the
Huge.
more people we can pay, the more people that we can employ, the more people we can safely put to work with minimal risk while mitigating, you know, some of these new risks that have never been present before. When the opportunity is there, we got to keep going. Otherwise, like Todd said, our restaurants, our small businesses will not be supported.
Yeah.
And
The greatest pandemic will not be COVID, right? It'll be the fall of the global economy.
It will.
And you know, it's like interesting too. So last pandemic, major global pandemic of proportion, Spanish flu, incorrectly named. However, did not come from Spain, but however, they were the first to report on it. You know, 1% of the world basically perished from that 100 years ago. And but what happened was it's easily documented that virus killed more people than World War I, right? So it's like people were like, oh, the war, right? And the focus was on that, but it was like, you know, there's the whole other side of that. And I think in this is like there is tragedy in the direct effect of the virus, but the secondary effect, you know, has potential to be much larger across the world in other, I guess, other currencies.
It's funny though, the economic and political spotlight leading up to this globally was, you know, oil and the fight between the Saudis and the Russians, which was driving the price of oil down. And domestically, we were arguing about whether there should be a pipeline going from Alberta through British Columbia to a port on the West Coast, and, you know, Energy East and all this stuff. Well, what we have combined with like the level of household debt and the price of oil and the lack of kind of, you know, manufacturing and stuff that came out of the downfall of like 2008, 2009, we kind of have the perfect storm brewing here right now. And I don't think people are seeing it. Like when this is over, it's going to, you know, be dire, and it's going to be dire pretty quick, I think. So
yeah, that's the experience. The experience in the United States is that
We're seeing it.
we had this, like, I don't know, it's like 40 or 70 million people in the United States since 2008 have been pushed into this paycheck to paycheck. Like they have no money, zero money. Like 40 million Americans do not have $1,000 set aside to fix the car or pay for an emergency room visit. It's not there. And so now this comes along and you have instantly like 40 million people with no cushion. And then someone made the point, they're like, so as they peel back these layers, you got all these people that can't pay rent. Well, then the landlords are saying, well, if they don't pay rent, I can't pay my mortgage. And then the banks are like, well, if you don't pay your mortgage, we're going to go broke. And then someone's like, who set up this system where every fucking person is dependent on the person in front of them? And if anyone breaks that chain, no one has any cushion. And it's extremely delicate. And that's obviously why, you know, what we do pass a spending bill for $2 trillion. Like every time I see the word trillion on Twitter, I'll write $1 trillion equals $132 per person on Earth. It is such a big number. And yet we just whipped like 2 trillion right through last week without even talking about it. And I bet in 2 weeks, we're going to do another 2 trillion. And it's just like, no one knows what they're doing and no one knows what's going to happen. But we definitely walked into this thing.
My kids asked, why don't they just print more money?
Yeah.
Correct.
See World War II, Germany.
Right.
It's quite an interesting subject, actually. I don't pretend to understand it, but the whole thing about currency and making money and printing money and not, it's the arbitrage and the currencies and all. It's a fascinating system. If you peel back a couple layers, it is super complex. I would say about 0.02% of people actually understand, and that's probably a big number. Maybe you guys do, but
watch Too Big to Fail.
It's like, if you actually start thinking about it,
really is.
Yeah. Well, The Big Short.
Yeah, that's another great one.
Yeah.
I mean, great movie and super interesting, but I don't think they get into the whole currency thing and just the idea of making more money. Like it's all arbitrary, and yet not. It's probably this whole thing up.
No, and you're right. The
Weird.
currency,
Weird.
people don't really, the currency markets, I'm with you, Michael. I don't understand it either, but I've always heard that the currency markets are this behemoth. It's like we don't even understand the size of money being shuffled back and forth, taking advantage of
Valuations.
like
Yeah.
0.5% exchange rates and overnight trading, and it's in the billions and hundreds of billions of dollars daily, and we have no fucking idea how any of it works. And I don't think you said like 0.2% understand. I think 0%. I think we have a system where literally fucking nobody has any idea how it's gonna turn out or what's supposed to happen now. We're flying
Like
blind.
the whole inequality is, I think, I mean, I've said for a while now, it's like the number one issue. And I think it's going to get worse and worse, because what you end up having is this dystopia where, you know, the rich people can afford clean. You look at India, like the shutdown in India right now is a clusterfuck. Like it's hammering the poor, which is most of the 1.3 billion. And, you know, guess who's going to come out doing well? Well, it's the rich, healthy people. Well, the rich people are going to stay healthy, and the poor people are going to get clobbered and are going to get more poor and worse. It's nasty if you want to drift to the dark places of low points. But Kersey, that's not the point of this call. I mean, come on, bring us back up, man. Come on,
Yeah.
we need some optimism.
We got dark
All right.
fact.
So, out of all this darkness, what is one commitment that you would make in the next week to help move yourself forward? Doesn't have to be everyone in the world. Doesn't have to be. It can be your kids. It can be your wife. It can be your community. It can be work. Mike earlier said in the conversation that he thought, you know, everything's good. I'm healthy. My family is healthy. Everyone's good. I shouldn't complain about anything. Most of the stuff I have to complain about is corporate and reporting and da 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 da. The point is that we just touched on in this last conversation is that the economy is also important. So there are a bunch of people in your situation, Mike, who, you know, have great families, have great support structure, are super secure, you know, that where the next paycheck is coming from, and just, you know, working for good companies that are doing powerful things around the world. It doesn't mean we shouldn't be worried about those companies or the economy in general. I mean, even if we're not worried about our own companies. So if you had one commitment you wanted to make, again, size is no objective, what would you do in the next week to move things forward in your mind?
Well, I'll dive in. I think
So you're coming to me? You go.
I'm gonna dive right in.
Tony, yeah, go.
I made the joke the other day that I want to bring it back to the 80s. I want to parent like it was the 80s without all, not just the technology and stuff like that, but yeah, bring it back to, you know, my youth was a lot of family activities, a lot of stuff around the house, a lot of activities with kids in the neighborhood and things like that. Take all the hustle and bustle out of it and focus on the people that are important, the people that are close to you. And also reconnect with the people that I have been too busy to talk to, like the four of you. Like, you know, it's been so long that you know, with the technology we have today, how is it 20 years, Duncan, that we haven't talked? Or, you know, like 18, 16, Mike and Dustin, and okay, Garth, I see every year, but whatever.
But only once a year.
Oh, that's a year. But you know what I mean? Honestly, like, I think the reset is going to be to come out of this and really take those relationships and reignite them and reconnect with people. And then I also think, you know, the five of us, we're probably on the, you know, higher side of the scale of people who are going to come out of this okay. And I think it's a good point you made, Dustin. Like, we'll have to look at the people that aren't going to come out of this okay, especially the ones that we're close to and that we care about and stuff, and maybe support them more and show more compassion like you guys did after that hurricane and stuff, that we haven't been through something like this before. So I think that's the way I'm going to try and get through this and support the people around me.
That's great. Make a commitment to live that way and you know, pay it forward, like you're saying. What do you got, Todd? You're on mute.
Yep. So So I think for me, I will commit to keep doing what I'm doing. And for me, it's like those little things. Like I honestly, I get back to this thing about, basic human decency, but like there's so many ways that we can help each other. And it's like all the little things ladder up to bigger things that ladder up to even bigger things. And it's like, there is like, care for yourself, care for your family for sure, right? Like that's like lowest common denominator. Like care for your neighbor, care for the person down the street. To your point, care for the stranger, care for somebody. Like I recognize you as a person that, is in my neighborhood and like, hey, do you need something? Do you need some help? It's those little things that can bring people back to sort of like, hey, we are a global community. Like it sounds stupid, but like for me, giving people like right away, holding doors for people, respecting right now that people don't want to maybe talk to you, but also in ways that you can help people. Like if you have the means to donate, things you don't need right now, go do it. There's going to be people needing so much support. Food banks. My son tried to actually, at Christmas time, he tried to, as part of his school stuff, donate his time to the local food bank and put together care packages for people at Christmas. There wasn't enough food at the food banks that they needed help to do it. And that was like shocking to me. And that was like, to me, like a real barometer that says, holy shit, like where are we going? What have we become? And like these little stories that we have the technology and the social media and the voice and the stage to tell everybody about, like little things. My neighborhood had a thing where it's like right on chalk on your driveway, some helpful words or some inspirational words that, hey, we're all together and we miss each other as a neighborhood, but we're all going to get through it. Like people need each other right now more than ever, because people are in a way more connected than ever, but more distant, right? And that's a bit of a cliche in social media, where the whole thing where everybody's sitting around a table, at a restaurant on social media. So they're 4 feet away, or they're an arm's length away from each other, but they're not actually talking. I think we need that more. We need people to reach out to other people and offer help and support and an ear and friendship and compassion and empathy and sympathy. And I think I will try to do that. I will commit to try to do that every opportunity I have.
Powerful. Good job.
Before we go on, can you tell me, is that somebody riding a velociraptor in that picture behind you to your right?
Wait, before you answer. Is that Jeebus riding a velociraptor?
What is it?
On your fridge.
But honestly, how was he supposed to get around if he didn't ride a velociraptor?
I can only see the back half, and I was like, that's not a horse.
How the hell is he supposed to spread his word?
I wrote this on my notes.
You idiots, it's a T-Rex.
That's not a T-Rex.
Yeah.
I wrote this on my notes to ask Mike at the end.
Did you really? What is that?
Yeah. No, I think I knew what it was. I just wanted to make sure.
I found this in the back alley in a pile of garbage left by some homeless dudes at my office a few years ago. And I just loved the message of Jesus and, evolution and creation and the whole mix of religion and science, and Jesus is laughing at everybody.
I love it, but like, where did they hang it up? Like on a box? Or like you gotta have something to hang a picture like that on. It was
literally like, I wish there was like a credit or like an author or an artist or whatever. There's like zero evidence of anybody ever making it. I've never seen it before, but I love it in so many different categories. And yeah, Jesus doesn't give a shit. Jesus
don't play.
He's like the honey badger in a way.
Very much the template for the honey badger.
Just the icing on the cake. Is that a rainbow in the top right corner as well, or is it just a sunbeam?
Exactly. It's Perfect. It's the icing on the cake.
The whole world. It's the whole
It is
world.
a rainbow.
It's a lot of hope. It's a picture of hope.
It's Jesus doesn't give a shit, people. Jesus doesn't give a shit.
Fuck.
Maybe he should be riding on a honey badger.
He should be.
Mike, what do you got? You got a commitment you want to make in the next week to make the world a better place, or to make your life a better place?
Yeah, I got a couple things I'm working on, and I think the first one is I'm trying to get more healthy, and because someone reminded me, again, big company, all sorts of corporate stuff going on about this thing, but somebody made a point. It's not unlike an airplane. The airplane's going to pressurize. You got to put your own mask on first before you help others. And so I'm trying to get myself more healthy. I'm a large man. I always have been, I suppose, but I'm not like super obese or anything, but I'm not as healthy as I want to be. So trying this opportunity, not traveling as much, more control over my hours and so on, to get my ass in shape, and so that I can be there for others, because I think whether it's my family or people around me. So I think trying to do a better job of that. And the last couple of weeks, my wife is very active, and she does CrossFit and whatnot. So she's kicking my ass, and I'm trying to do that much to her amusement. So that's sort of a personal thing. But back to the other points, I think I heard long ago from a friend of mine I really respect. You may have met Janie Proley. She lived in Guelph for a while there. She was a Guelph grad, and she worked for many years, sort of doing org health for PepsiCo. Now she leads organization development for McCain, I think, there in Toronto. Anyway, someone I've had a lot of respect for, and I remember sort of talking about feeling the need to make an impact in the world, and I don't know who said it, or I think she sort of guided the conversation. Rather than trying to have this one big impact, this one big thing, like this big change, doing a bunch of little things. And I think it's back to what Garth was saying, but just being good to people, and just engaging strangers and people in the organization. I've since I moved to my home office here, although I've always sort of been in a home office when I lived overseas and so on, but I came back to Calgary, and I spent 3 years in Calgary, and people really loved having me in Calgary. The energy, I brought energy to the place, and people miss it. And so I sort of make a point of just calling people that I don't necessarily, that don't report to me or don't necessarily work with me, but just calling people and just shooting shit. And people feed off that energy. I remember I used to just go in the office. I'd whistle Christmas carols around Christmas time. One of the accountants came up to me at Christmas party and said, I really, really like it when you're in the office and whistling Christmas carols. It really makes me feel good. And, I think when as someone said, we're social beings, and I think we forget the impact. We can't forget the impact that has on people. And not everyone's like that, but I think everyone, or most people, will feed off it or feed from it, feed it, whatever. Anyway, I think there's a lot of good that can be done to just being positive and just calling people, see how they're doing, just checking in. So I'm going to try to keep doing that. And it's kind of weird in a small town, but just the ability to walk down the street and say, hey, how you doing? And give someone an elbow bump, and they just talk to people. And that can have a big impact on people. So little things, I think they add up.
I agree. I think those little things just snowball forward. Go for it. And
Kersey, I want you to do this again with some different people. I want to join other people. I think Monique, it'd be fun to get her.
That's a diss.
On the horn. Come
That's
on,
what that is.
Do this again with some other people, man. This is fun.
That hurt, man. It's only been one time in 20 years, and you're already want out.
Right?
No, I don't want out. I want.
Paul, I'd like to talk to you again soon, and
more.
I
want
more.
Dustin. More. I don't want less of you. I want more of other people. You and.
I'm just pulling your chain, Mike. I'm just pulling your chain.
Before I go to Duncan about a commitment,
easily pull.
Mike, you have always been, and not to the detriment of the four of us on the call, but you have always been one of the most positive people in my life. You've been always this guy who always, I don't know, just a level of positivity that I keep striving for. And so you're an inspiration. Just keep walking your life the way you are and spread that love to everyone. You do a good job, man.
Jesus on the T-Rex.
Jesus don't give a shit.
That's right. But don't spread your
give a
love
shit.
in a way that would get you in trouble with your wife.
Is he singing and the connection went out? Yeah.
I feel like we should get Mike a bracelet that says like JD Gas, which would be Jesus don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like what would Jesus do, but JD Gas. Okay.
We can have that made.
Duncan, what do you got? Commitment you want to make?
My commitment is I had enormous good fortune heading into this, and I'm glad that I've got this film that's now going to be edited and produced by other people, and I don't have to do that. So I actually have professional stuff that's happening all by itself without me needing to lean on it, which is a really fortunate place to be. My job right now, I think, is to sit my ass down. This is the big city. It is filled. I'm watching the count very carefully. I've got this roommate I mentioned. It really is our job to we all just got to sit our ass down. I do worry. I love LA. It's a really, really great city, but it's big. There's a lot of people here who live right on the edge. There's going to be a lot of people hurt locally. There's going to be a lot of social and civil unrest. And, I hope we'll get through it just fine to the extent that we'll still be here, but there's going to be stuff that goes down. And so I just want to help my community as much as I can. And all I can think of to do right now is just like, I've just got to stay put and help people not get sick and wait and see what the economic fallout will be from this. And I'm very grateful that I'm in a position where Ben and I can hunker down for a little bit. We run a tight budget, but we got it covered for a little while. So we're in a very fortunate position. I think all of us are, the 5 of us here. I applied for a job, my first job in California. I remember applying for it. I was at this shoring excavation company, and I went to work as just a literal shoring engineer, designing holes in the ground. And obviously they'd never heard of McMaster University, and I interviewed with these guys, and they said, well, we just, we like you. We're going to probably hire you, but we got to check and make sure that your engineering school is legitimate. And I was like, you go do that, And I remember they came in, they're like, oh yeah, it's good, because the top 10 engineering schools in Canada, which we all went to, are in the top 50 engineering schools in the world. And when I tell people that I went to McMaster University and got a civil engineering degree for $2,500 a semester, and I live in a country where like USC is $35,000 a semester, and it's just, we're so fucking lucky, and we're so equipped for whatever is about to come down the pipe, because we have like an understanding of stuff that's going to matter. The other thing I want to ask you guys is, do you remember at one of our ESCO things, we would have those great speakers, and there was like a lawyer who came in and talked to us. Do you remember this? He talked about he was a lawyer, and it always stuck with me. He was a lawyer, and he was very charismatic, and he came in and he was presenting at ESCO, and he's like, you guys, you're engineers, and you see the world rationally, and I envy you and I admire you, and you're going to graduate and you're going to go out into the world, and you're going to realize that it is not an engineer's world out there. It is a lawyer's world. Feelings are what matters. And you're going to be just baffled by how governed by like emotion and opinion things are that you think are going to be governed by like rationality and science. And that always stuck with me. And it's always been like true, like really true. I had a hard time coming to grips with how fucking irrational this planet is. But I think as we get deeper and deeper into this, we're going to need rational players. We're going to need people who fucking know what needs to happen next so that we can all like move forward. And that'll fall to us in weird ways. And I guess I look forward to trying to meet that challenge. And it sounds like you guys already are.
Duncan, you've touched on something like so fundamental, and I totally agree with this. And I'm actually working on a bit of a present to my division to talk about it, but like people, it's literally, it's people. Like they are the source of the problems. They are the source of the solutions. They are like the things that get fucked up along the way. Like things come at us. Okay, there's a coronavirus. Okay, but like people decide how to, how to fight against this thing. People decide to mobilize themselves and to do this, right? And then people decide to actually like come together or split each other apart. And like it is the single greatest like force that can assemble people or divide them, right? It's just like in general, it's just like and how they choose to do it. We're gonna get together, or we're gonna fight each other for this, or just split and run. It's crazy.
And there'll be people doing both.
Yeah. There's always, right, and that's it.
Most people are. I think most people are good people. I think that's what our experiences are. You go out and most people are doing their thing, and then it's the people that are like stockpiling toilet paper and hand sanitizer are not your regular folk. They just aren't. There's just the occasional asshole out there. It just takes one. It just takes one asshole to load up on all of Costco's hand sanitizer.
Yeah, resell on Amazon, but for sure. Right?
They do. They definitely do.
Unfortunately, it takes more than one person to vote for Trump. But anyways, no one seems to know anybody who has.
Right.
That's great. That's great, Todd.
I wish I could reach behind me and pull out a roll of toilet paper and throw it.
I will say that people's emotional reaction to things that are going on is like, it's tough to deal with. And it's tough when you get caught in that spiral of just getting circular. And, it doesn't matter whether you're making a fantastic movie that you think people will love and they shut you down and you start worrying about the little cough you have and you start going down that rabbit hole, or you start worrying about how much toilet paper you're going to flush down the toilet. People have different reactions to different things. I think we're all on the right track, and I think this group is great to just be gracious to people and be ready to help each other. And to be honest, that was the main reason why I brought the five of us together.
14-year-old.
I can't think of a better, more passionate, more.
All right, Mike, who's that? Sorry, Dustin, I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't want to make Mike's daughter sit on his lap for the next 20 minutes. Who was that, Mike?
It's Lucy.
That was Lucy.
Sweet.
That's Lucy, my 14-year-old.
Awesome. Hey, Lucy. Bye, Lucy. Sorry, Dustin. Keep going.
No, it just people have different reactions, and it's great that all of us are ready to support them in their time of need. Because I think Duncan's point is right. I think all of you have made good points. We just need to be gracious to each other. We as the five of us need to realize that we're in a good position, both not at least to some point financially, and to a greater point mentally, to be prepared to handle the things that are going to come towards us, and pivot and find people, find the restaurant worker who should have been a manager, find the janitor who should have been a construction worker, find the people that weren't given the opportunity, and let's focus on the opportunities coming up so that we can grab the right people when they're available to us. I don't know. That's where my train of thought was going.
I like it.
Duncan, is the title of the film set in stone, or are you still figuring it out?
Oh yeah, no, it's called Linked. Linked.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're thinking that through. Nice. Okay. Keep us posted.
Well, I mean, they might change it, but I think it's going to stay linked. I think it'll stay. It works because of it's the interconnectivity of this group of teenagers that are screwing each other and then cutting each other up. It's Scream, but with like a Instagram component to it.
Oh,
very high art. It should be a lot of fun.
Nice.
Mike, your 14-year-old daughter will hopefully appreciate it. She's probably my target demo. So
guys, I'm gonna stop recording now. I want to thank you all for coming and enjoying this. I hope you'll stay on the line for a few minutes because I have some questions that I want to ask each of you just to interact. But man, this has been awesome. Like,
Thanks for organizing. It's been fun.
it's been great. I like to have the structure in the background, and I love
thanks a lot,
that we
Dustin.
all went in different places and talked about different things. And that was the whole point of the thing. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having us, Dustin. Great job, bud.